Hello, I'm Anna Škegro. I come from the Museum of Contemporary Art Zagreb, and unfortunately I'm the only representative of my museum here today because of some professional obligations the others have, but in the name of my museum I would like to thank Kumu and Marin and Marianne and everyone. I don't see anyone from here, but for a wonderful symposium and great 2 days here. Again, I was here, as you saw, on the residency. So I will shortly talk about the residency that took place at MSU Zagreb. Our residents were members of NGO Lasnaidee from Tallinn, Estonia. You will meet one of them later in the roundtable discussion. And the residency took place from May 6th to May 15th, so 10 days, a very short period of time to create something, but we managed to do it. Short introduction of the residents, so Maria Derlõš and Kljutšnik. They're members of the Lasnaidee, who is an NGO that consists of 10 members. And they are residents of Lasnaidee area in Tallinn, which is the largest panel housing area in Estonia. And they work in activating their public space and the residents of that area to create a more, to create a better living space, basically, for themselves and all of their residents. And since the Museum of Contemporary Art Zagreb is located since 2009 in a new building in the area of Novi Zagreb, that means New Zagreb. It's an area that's separated from the rest of the city by a river, and a lot of people say that it's very hard to reach, even though it takes 15 minutes, but Zagreb is a small town, so everything that's not in the center is sort of remote. And we wanted to, during this residency, one of our goals was to connect the museum more closely to the residents of Novi Zagreb. This is our 7th year in that area, but we still don't have that many regular visitors from the area as we would like. And of course, the main goal was to firstly create a youth club, since we didn't have one before this project, and to engage them in this project for starters, and then later in other activities of our museum. So a little bit about the youth club. We founded it in April 2016, this year. We sort of put up an open call, universities, schools, Facebook, Instagram, and etc. And 19 people responded, but today we remained with 11 of them. They're in the age of between 16 and 24 years, mostly girls. And before we started with the residency, we only had the time for 2 meetings, so those 2 meetings were basically getting to know each other, letting them know about the project, hearing their interests, seeing what they want to do, what are their ideas, because it's important to say that before the residencies, none of us actually had a fixed idea what we wanted to do. It was planned to create a solution together with the youth club. So just a few photos of the first 2 meetings. They came up with a lot of ideas what they would like to do in this project, but of course we had to choose some together with the members of Lasnaidee, Maria and Katja. So when the girls arrived, we had an introductory meeting, and they decided to take the group for an urban walk through some of the neighborhoods of Novi Zagreb. since half of the members of our youth club don't live in that area, or some of them have never even been there. And it was interesting to see that the people who live there love the place and think it's a great place to live, but the others who have never been there or just a few times think that it's very distant, remote, boring, and etc. So we wanted to change that. We also, after the urban walk, we had a couple of brainstorming meetings in which Maria and Katja discussed with the group what, out of all of the ideas they had, which ones to choose and which ones we can actually produce and do in the short period of time we had. And they also did some research visits to our collection, and in the end we had the construction workshops, as I called them, where they built the elements for our plateau of the museum. And after the residency was over, we had a promotion of the things that we did. So the two ideas that sort of came out as the ones they mostly wanted to do were first the interventions at the plateau, which is I forgot to put a photo, but it's similar to here. It's a big gray concrete area which looks kind of empty when you look at it from the road. So they wanted to create some extra content, and one thing they pointed out is that they would like to create a sort of a friendlier environment where young people can just hang out and without having to pay any money or anything, just to have some things to do and spend their free time. And the other idea was to bring the museum to the neighborhoods of Novi Zagreb by making small interventions on public benches, which would interpret some facts about our museum and sort of introduce ourselves better, in a better way to the residents of Novi Zagreb. That second idea is still pending, since we didn't have time to do it all, but the youth club really likes that idea, and after this short summer break we will continue to develop that if we can. Okay, so these are the brainstorming sessions, and finally they got to work. So the final 2 days were pretty intense. We were there a whole day, but they came and went as they could. And we actually built those 5 sort of boards that can be placed on the benches on the plateau. And what they wanted to do is to create their own games. So not normal, usual games, but their versions of the board games. So they had some pretty good ideas. We chose a few of them, and they painted it all. And after a couple of days, we had sort of a presentation of that, those elements, where we invited everyone to try it out. So this is one of the board games. It's an idea from one of the members of the youth club who is actually studying design, so she was really excited to play around with this. It looks fun, but it's really hard to play. You constantly get lost in where you're heading. We also did one with only chalkboard paint, where you can play Pictionary or whatever you want on it. We also did refurbish this old staircase which we found in the museum, and created a library which functions on the basis of exchange, so leave something, take something. And also if you spend time in the plateau, and you can just pick something up and read it. And one thing that also, one idea that came out of from the members of the youth club was to create some extra seating areas, because the benches we have are scattered around, and people, if they come in groups that are more than 2 or 3 people, they can't really sit and turn to each other in a circle or something to enjoy their time together, but they have to stand up or something. So we just took some old pallets and fixed them together and created the extra seating area. As I said, we did half of the things we planned on doing, but the other half we will try to do after the break. And of course, we have to now prepare the materials for the exhibition and for the catalog of the exhibition, since we are the ones that are having the first exhibition in January. This will be primarily the focus of our youth club from September on. And we also decided to put up another open call to invite more members, new members, to the youth club, because we had some inquiries about from other people to participate. They couldn't join in the middle of the residency, but we sort of wanted to give them a chance to participate as well. That's it. Thank you.